The next thing, I guess we could talk about the Twitter lockout. So Elon locked out Twitter employees because he sent them an ultimatum. Hey, do you want to be part of Twitter 2.0? It means a lot more work. It means hardcore dedication. Click yes. And a bunch of like soy boys and lame entitled tech workers didn't click yes and even made a show of it. I think what, like another half of the company was let go. I think at the end of it, is he not? He's going to fire like 90% of the people, right? And this is what I wanted. This is what I said. I said, hey, you need to just fire everybody. Essentially, you really should just fire everybody. Just keep the janitors, keep the people who actually did work, and the people who say they're for this Twitter 2.0. But of course, the mainstream media, they spun this as some sort of, oh, this is a mess. This is disaster. This is so disorganized. This is an indication that a person doesn't know how to run a company. I think it doesn't mean that he knows how to run a company. He wants to get rid of all these worthless people. Take your 3-month severance and go. That's what this is. And yeah, you got to lock them out because they might sabotage it. Because this is the type of employee. This is the type of employee you guys hired all this time. These are the type of people, right? Assholes who will sabotage a company on the way out. So, yeah, sure. And you can say, well, they were wronged. Are you shitting me? They were wronged. They were abused. These people, don't forget Indian guy on the Project Veritas video, okay? Don't forget that a lot of these people made, what is the average salary at Twitter? $200,000? And according to this guy, most of them worked 4 hours a week. Some of that just doing, just being being an arm of the Democratic Party, doing propaganda, censoring Hunter Biden laptop stuff. This is your quote unquote work, and you made 200. Listen, I think pretty much every American would love to be in your situation. So don't say you were oppressed. Don't say you were abused or whatever. And you assholes are getting a 3-month severance. Who gets that? Who else gets that? Most Americans, when they get fired, it's just goodbye. Okay? So no tears for you. No sympathy for you. In fact, fuck you. Don't feel sorry for these Twitter people who complain about what Musk is doing to these assholes. They had the temerity to claim that he was starving them just because he wouldn't buy them lunch every single day, which most Twitter employees didn't even show up to work to get, thus, skyrocketing the cost of the average lunch. Why should he get you lunch? Why should there be a coffee shop in the lobby of your headquarters?
Well, you know why, right? It's because these
well,
companies
yeah,
were all,
it was competitive during the tech boom. Yeah, I understand.
yeah,
But here's
yeah.
the thing. Regular Americans, they need to understand this context so that when you guys whine about your situation, we should not shed a damn tear for any of you. In fact, we should laugh in your face. Okay? Oh, so that's too bad. Oh, you still have good skills, supposedly, hopefully, maybe. I don't know if that's even the case for most Twitter employees, but if you have good skills, you can easily just go somewhere else, right? And you had years and years of this cushy lifestyle. You did barely any work. You're paid way more than the median salary of the normal American. So no, we're not crying for you at all. This lockout is not a disaster. It's not an example. And yes, I understand because I personally, I'm not a super hard worker either. So if somebody came in and said, hey, you have to work a lot harder, yeah, I would feel really bad about it. But I wouldn't say that I was wronged. I would just say that the gravy train has ended.
Yeah.
The gig is up. Like
You're not forced to stay.
Right, I'm not forced to stay, and I was living fat off the system for a long while. It was fun while it lasted. I wish it could go on longer. Sure, everybody would love. You're not a bad person if you would like to do less work for more money. Sure, absolutely. I don't blame you at all. I'm the same way. But when somebody comes along and says, hey, this company is not efficient. This company needs people who are going to do the work that we pay them for and maybe even go above and beyond. If you're not on board with that, you need to leave. that person is not doing you wrong. That person is just being a smart businessman. Your gravy train has ended. You had a gift. You were gifted something awesome for years and years. You can you could go to work, drink coffee, do 4 hours of work a week, take a unlimited whatever sick days, whatever the days of rest, whatever the fuck Twitter called it, right? That was your cushy, awesome situation, and I don't begrudge it. I don't begrudge, and I wish I had that situation, and I'm sure everybody wishes they had that situation. But now that it is over, you have no room to cry about it, and then they are crying about it, and that's where they get no sympathy from me. I totally understand the sentiment, but you get no sympathy from me. And in fact, it leads me to resent you and to hate you if you're going to cry about it as if some injustice has been done to you. No injustice has been done to you. Uh, he's just requiring you to work for your money, you know? So if you don't like that, then leave. A 3 month severance is not a bad consolation pack. Just take your severance and go. How much is that?
3 months severance is pretty amazing.
It is. It
I think Elon
fucking
even said
is.
it's like double the standard.
Well, it's a fourth of a year, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And if the average worker makes 200,000 a year, that means you just got 50,000 to leave. So take your money and go. 50,000 is more than the median American even makes. So for you to cry about it, fuck you. See, they don't ever mention the numbers because if you mention the numbers, the average person will turn on them really quick. So what they like to do on Twitter and in the mainstream media to paint Elon as a villain, they never mention the numbers. They never mention them because it would make these people look like spoiled brats immediately. This is what happens to athletes. Like there have been athletes in the past that said something like, "Oh, I turned down that $7 million a year contract because I need to put food on the table for my family." And well, the average American looked at that and turned on that person really quick because, yeah, $7 million a year is a lot. And how dare you act like you can't put food on the table with that amount of money, right? People do it on a lot less. So it's not good optics, public sentiment turned on this person very, very quickly. This is what we should do to Twitter employees. This is what we should do to these whiners who are going out the door. Of course he should lock you out. And you fuckers, some of you might even sabotage. In fairness, they haven't sabotaged the company, but let's be honest. Some of them would. Look at these fucking soys in these videos. You know some of them would do that. And they
They
would
would do
proudly.
that. They're probably afraid of the consequences, to be guessing.
But
I mean,
they
you'll
would do it, so
probably,
he's right
yeah.
to lock them out. But you know what? Why are startups so much more nimble and productive and they only have like 20 people?
Yeah.
And then once you get to like 1,000 people, there's not a linear increase in production, is there?
Not even close.
No. Why? Because you get more useless people, more people who brought in for diversity, equity, inclusion, more people who brought in because there's a coffee shop, all this horse shit. You don't have true believers who are there on a mission to do something. And I understand you can't have like that startup mentality forever. That's just probably not realistic. But let's be fucking honest. Twitter is closer to a startup than it is to what it needs to be. It's been going sideways for about 10 years. So it probably should revert to being in a startup mentality and like, what can we do? What can we do to grow? It's not like you guys are Microsoft or Amazon where, okay, you have a bunch of really successful arms and your place in the industry is very much solidified. No, I don't think it's that type of company. It's the type of company that still needs to innovate, that still needs to push really hard,
Yeah.
right? It's not a company that can sort of rest on its laurels. Now, probably no company should rest on its laurels, but let's be frank, some companies are they're so established that they probably just can for a long, long time. Twitter's not one of them. Twitter's not one of those companies. So it needs to operate closer to the way a startup operates than how it was operating. And who can we blame for that? Jack Dorsey, right? And it makes me laugh. There's people who were saying, "Oh, I can't wait for Jack Dorsey's new thing." Like he failed with Twitter. What makes you think his next thing is going to be better? He didn't support free speech. He didn't increase share price of the company. He mismanaged it. He bloated it. What about Jack Dorsey's management leads you to believe that his next thing is going to be a lot better? I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't understand either.
Here's another example of the way the mainstream media is trying to paint this. That they're obviously super against Elon and are just they have an agenda. It's very obvious. I read an article on Yahoo Finance about how Tesla stock has hit its lowest levels since 2020, and yeah, it's clearly because Elon took on Twitter responsibilities. What? This is totally ignoring the fact that we're in a downturn, that the stock market is slumping hard, and that all tech stocks have been heavily assaulted. What are you talking about? There's no indication, there's no evidence that the reason why Tesla is at a low since 2020 is because Elon did this, right? That's just garbage.
I mean, I mostly agree, but there is the reality that Elon did sell, billions of dollars worth of Tesla, which is
He did.
And that had a noticeable impact on the price. So
he did, but I believe it's clearly they're looking for any angle. Well,
oh yeah.
I mean,
no,
you could interpret it that way, but if you were more generous to Elon, you would just say, well, it's okay. He's a tech genius. He's a visionary who is taking on another altruistic mission or whatever. Just imagine how would the press if Sam Bankman-Fried were running Tesla and bought Twitter, how would the New York Times write an article about Sam Bankman-Fried? Well, it would go something like, the boy genius with the greatest intentions, the greatest altruistic intentions ever, due to his generosity of spirit, took on Twitter to ensure awesomeness throughout the land and the universe, regardless of whatever hit the Tesla share price would take. That's the kind of bullshit article they would write if a Democratic donor were in the same position as Elon Musk.
Yeah.
So there's angles you can take on this. Clearly, there's different slants, different interpretations, and it's clear to me that they take a negative interpretation whenever it comes to Elon, and they take a positive interpretation when it comes to a literal fucking criminal. And these events are only about a week apart. So don't say that this is whataboutism. Don't say I'm cherry picking here. These are two very similar type of people in different situations. And look at the way that the media slants their interpretation of it. Has the New York Times or the Washington Post even dared to call Sam Bankman-Fried a freaking potential criminal? Have they?
I don't know. But I saw a tweet saying...
Not from the article I read.
Yeah. I saw a tweet commenting about, this is a list of words that were not used in the article.
Right.
I think fraud was one of the words.
Fraud, yeah. Fraud is a pretty big word that you should probably be using. At least, and I understand you're a journalist, so you can't just say, well, he's guilty of fraud. Well, he's not technically guilty of fraud. But you can say things...
Come on. Yeah, I would put journalist in quotes.
Right. Well, New York Times is quote-unquote journalist, right? But you can say something like, many people accuse him of fraud or potentially guilty of fraud. These are all things that journalists could say.
Yeah, they love to do that too when it fits their narrative.
I mean, how many times have they said Trump was an accused rapist or something, right? That's a word that covers you legally. You could say it. You're not calling him a rapist. You're not calling Sam Bankman-Fried a fraudster. You're just saying some people are calling him that. It's enough cover. You're just saying that some suspect him of that. That's a fair statement.
It was interesting that CNN actually, I think they did use the fraud word, did they not? I mean, they compared it with Madoff, so that was...
I think that's fair enough. If you compare him with Madoff, then good on you, because that says it all. That comparison pretty much says everything that needs to be said about him.
Yeah, I mean, the headline was FTX crash is eerily similar to the Bernie Madoff scandal.
Right.
Ex-regulator Sheila Bair says.